Hi everybody, welcome back to Jaffa Cooks. Today I'm cooking, believe it or not, a full 3 kilo leg of lamb. We've got guests coming over. I've got around about 8 hours. I should just be able to make it. So I thought, why not? Let's make a video. We don't do a roast leg of lamb, especially a spiced one, very often. So today I'm going to take you through the perils and disasters of how to cook a leg of lamb. If you're not into spicy food, and you don't like getting your hands dirty, then get some gloves on. But definitely, it's an eye-opener for me. The first time I did it, definitely it's a good with the kids as well. So enjoy it. So very quickly, I've got a 3 kilo leg of lamb. Just before we start, if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so. Click on the bell icon. All the ingredients and the methods of creating this leg of lamb are down in the description below. Okay, so to start, I've got the leg of lamb. Brought it up to room temperature, so it's been outside for around about half an hour, 40 minutes now. There's fat on it, leave the fat as is. There's no need to trim anything really, so what we're going to do is we're going to apply some spices to it, wrap it up in foil. I've got the oven on at 180 degrees, and then we'll slow roast cook it for about 6 to 7 hours. Okay. So I'm just going to put this leg of lamb to one side, and I'm going to wash my hands. Welcome back. I've got my ingredients ready, so I've got some harissa paste, so I've got some cumin, coriander, fresh garlic, mint and coriander, lemon zest of 1 lemon, and the juice of 1 lemon as well. I've got some olive oil that I'll use as well at the same time, and I've got a ingredient left to one side. That's the white wine vinegar, which we're not going to put into the mix, but we're going to put into the roasting tin itself. Okay, so very quickly and very easily, all you've got to do is just mix all the wet ingredients. The good thing about roasting legs of lamb is you don't really need to do much. It just cooks itself. You just got to get the marinade right. If you can get the marinade right and the timing right, that's about it. Everything else will bind together itself. So that's all I've done now. I've put everything together in a bowl, and all I'm going to do now is mix this in. Now you'll see that I haven't put any salt in because there's a lot of acidity in it already. But what I'm going to do, and if you can, there's nothing raw in this. I'm going to take a teaspoon and I'm going to taste it. So I've just tasted it. It doesn't require any salt, but it is spicy. So I would, if you're cooking a 3 kilo lamb, I suggest you use, if you're not a great eater of spice, then go with 1 tablespoon per kilo of leg lamb. But if you're okay with eating a little spice, then 1.5 tablespoons should be fine. Okay. Okay, so just going to put that to one side. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back. Our leg of lamb. So now what we're going to do is we're going to score it and make sure that there's enough cuts in there for the spice to marinate whilst it's cooking for about 7 to 8 hours. Before I do that, let me just quickly wash my hands. And we have to be very careful because when we're scoring, we should have a sharp knife, and we don't want the tray to move around. So we've just got. I'm going to place a cloth underneath this with a bit of water just to make sure that it's that the tray is stable. Okay, welcome back. So before I score my meat, I'm just going to place it on top of a kitchen towel just to make sure it's a bit sturdy compared to being on a shiny surface. It might move around, and you should have a sharp knife. Now, if you don't have a sharp knife, I suggest you do get one because fat, it's very difficult to score through fat. So all we have to do is first score through the fat with a little bit of meat as well. Just scoring through it so that the spice starts going into the meat. Now, as I said in the beginning, it would be great if I could marinate this for about 8 hours or even overnight. But unfortunately, as the guests are coming in about a few hours' time, I don't have the luxury of marinating it, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to immediately cook it, and then I'm going to immediately marinate it, and I'm going to cook it within. I'm going to start the cooking process within the next half an hour. So as you can see, I've scored the meat, and this should allow me to start rubbing the marinade directly into the meat. Okay, so just to show you, that's what it should look like. Okay. Now, if it's not like this, you can fork it, poke it, any other way. Just pierce the fat and a little bit of the meat for the marinade to penetrate. Now, this is where your hands are going to become more useful than any kind of tool in your kitchen. So I'm just going to take the marinade off. I used to watch my mum and dad cooking in their times. And they always used to say, the best tool in the kitchen are your hands. So I'm going to literally dive in. I've got gloves on, you might not be able to see them, but I do have gloves on. So I'm going to take a third of the marinade actually. I'll take a third of the marinade and just cover it over the top. Now do go into those cuts. Put as much as you can out of the third of what I've shown you so far into the cuts. And that's going to cook away. And as it's got lemon in there as well, that lemon will start cooking it off immediately. It'll start putting a zesty flavour into it as well, because there's lemon rind in there as well. I'm just going to turn it over, take a bit more. Now on the back of the leg, it's a bit more tricky because there's some bone, and I've got this flange here as well at the same time. So I'm just going to cover the flange. And you can see I didn't even trim the fat as well. I've left the fat on there, because fat is good for cooking as well. It's a natural kind of oil. So I'm going to carry on marinating this for about the next 10 odd minutes, and I'll see you back once it's ready. Okay, welcome back. So I've finished my marinade and covering of the lamb, so you can see it looks something like this. Try to keep as much of it on the lamb and less in the tray. But if there is any in the tray, don't worry, we'll move it over to the leg once we cover it with foil. So I'm just going to give my hands a quick wipe down. And I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so welcome back. The leg is ready. Got foil on the side. So what we're going to do now is wrap in its blanket, put it to sleep. So I've got enough foil here to wrap the leg of lamb from top to bottom. So you need to make sure that the entire leg of lamb is wrapped. So I'm just going to transfer the leg of lamb, and my hands are going to get dirty again, so I end up washing my hands again. Now if you've got a flange, don't worry about it, just tuck it underneath and lay the leg on top. And that's as perfect as it becomes. If there's any additional marinade left, I'm just going to pick maybe just 1 or 2 bits there. Hate wasting anything actually in the kitchen. Okay, that's done. Sorry, I'm going to have to wash my hands again. Okay, welcome back. So, after the third time washing my hands, the leg of lamb should sit in its foil blanket. And what we're going to do now is, you should have turned the oven on to about 180 degrees, and we'll cook it in the oven for about 1 hour, and then we'll turn it down to about 140, 150. Now, every leg of lamb is different. And what I do suggest is once you put it into the oven, leave it for about 3 to 4 hours. And when we're done, this lamb and the bone should just literally separate and it should shred. And that's what we want to do. We want the lamb to become so off the bone, so fine, that it should come off the bone with no ease at all. And then what we'll do with it, we'll talk about that later on. So let's just wrap this up, put it into its bed, which is behind me, and then we'll put it on for roast. Okay. So there's no real hard, fast way of really rolling your lamb. Just make sure that the entire leg is covered. Now on the bottom you might have a piece of bone there, and it might break the foil. So what I do suggest is just cover a bit more, or you could get some additional foil and just cover the bone, the bottom first. Now, don't forget, when you're wrapping the leg of lamb, you do probably want to open it after 4 or 5 hours. So don't scrunch it all up. Try and fold it and roll it so that if you need to open it, it opens up with ease. So that's my lamb ready, and now we're going to put it in its bed, which is just behind me. Now I've got this pot roast pan I've used many times. In there I'm going to pour in 1/4 cup of white wine vinegar. And I'm going to place the lamb directly within it. There's no need for water or anything else. What we're going to do now is cover it and put a timer on for 1 hour to bake at 180 degrees, and then after that we'll reduce it down to about 140 for about 4 to 6 hours, depending on the size of the leg. It's usually around about half an hour for every half a kilo. We'll check after about 4 hours and see what the status of the lamb is. It should basically come off, literally come off the bone. So I'm going to place this into my oven. Okay, so that's it. That lamb is in the oven now. It's placed in the middle shelf, and I'll see you back in about 5 hours. Have a good day.